Your credit score is extremely important in today's society, so it is in your best interest to learn what factors affect your credit score. But how it's calculated continues to be the big mystery. Well, Skip Cowan, Executive Director of the Focus Foundation, is here to tell us the 5 factors that determine our score. Good morning, Skip.
Good morning, Nikki. How are you?
I'm great, except for the fact that I'm always worrying about my credit score. So
Aren't we all?
We are. How important is it really?
Well, you know, it kind of depends on where you are in life. If you don't need to borrow money, you're not looking to get a credit card, that type of thing, it's not important at all.
Okay.
However, most of us don't fall into that category.
No, we don't.
Most of us are going to buy a car, we're looking to buy a house, we're looking to get a new credit card, we're looking for a department store card, whatever. And with the holidays coming up, it's even more of a factor.
Yeah.
Then your credit score means everything.
Well, yeah, and you know what, Skip? It's not always just about buying, because I lease my car, I rent my apartment, and both of those things required me to apply for good, I still had to show my credit score.
You're right. Plus, credit scores can determine whether or not you can buy insurance.
Right.
Whether or not you get a job sometimes.
That's absolutely right.
Really kind of scary.
You really have to think ahead. And I always wondered, is one's financial reputation tarnished by a bad reputation with their bad credit score?
Unfortunately, yes.
It is.
Yes. And I guess what bugs me about it is that somebody out there is looking at you, judging your character based on a 3-digit number. They don't even know you.
Exactly. And that's frustrating because there are so many other things you could be doing right. But if you had some financial mistakes, it's a problem. So let's do it like this, just to give everybody a way to kind of focus on their own personal lives. What would 5 factors be to determine the score?
Well, keep in mind, Nikki, that it's called the FICO score. There are different scoring systems as well, from Experian and TransUnion, but FICO is the most predominantly used score.
Right.
So the 5 elements that make that up, number 1 is paying your bills on time. And this is like 35% of the score.
Yeah.
And so the key here is to realize that when it says the due date is October the 17th, that's the due date.
Right.
It's not the 18th, it's not the 26th.
It's not the leeway time.
Right. So and keep this in mind, that your score probably will not be affected unless you're 30 days late.
Okay.
But it can be.
But you don't want to take that chance.
You don't want to take the chance. Plus, you're going to pay, what, 35, 40 bucks in late fees? I don't want to do that.
No, we don't.
Now, second element
Yeah.
is your debt to available credit ratio. So, for example, let's say you have a MasterCard and you have a $10,000 limit on that card. That's the only card you got.
Right.
And you go out and have a big spending spree and you spend 5,000 bucks.
Yeah.
Your debt to credit ratio is 50%.
Oh.
That's going to cause your score to go down.
It is?
Right. And that's a 30% factor.
Okay. Oh, I never thought of it that way.
And keep this in mind, even though you pay the darn card off every month, it could be that when the score is calculated on that particular month, that you've spent a lot of money and your credit cards run up and your score will drop.
Okay.
Now, factor number 3, keep this in mind as well, is credit history. Now, this means the length of time you've had a card.
Okay.
For example, I have a card in my wallet that I've had since 1972.
Oh,
I hate to admit that, but
amazing.
The truth of the matter is that helps my score.
Sure, because you've kept yourself in good standing.
The longer it's been there, the longer I'm going to go.
That's amazing.
Now that amounts to, let me see, 15% of the score.
Wow, that's 15%?
15%.
Good to know. Okay.
Now here's something that's interesting as well. The next one, number 4, is credit inquiries.
What is,
and that amounts to about 10%.
Okay.
Right? So, for example, you apply for credit, and the potential creditor looks at your credit score, et cetera, and determines whether or not they're going to grant you a loan.
Yes.
If you do a lot of those, it's going to impact your score.
This is what I was going to ask you. Remember I said I had because every time I've ever gone to maybe apply for something, my mom always says, don't keep applying for everything, because every time you apply for all these cards, it can affect your credit. And I thought that was a myth. So it is true.
Oh, it is absolutely true.
Interesting.
And again, with the holidays coming up, you go to these department stores, and what do they say to you at the register?
Oh, you want to apply for a credit card for 10% off of your purchase
Exactly.
today?
So we do it 5 times on the same day? Gee, that's not very smart, because you're going to end up with your credit score dropping.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
And keep in mind that again, that's 10% of your score. Now,
really good to know.
The last factor, and people don't think about this very much, is the types of credit that you use, and that's also 10%. There are basically 2 types of credit: installment, which is like a mortgage or a car payment, something like that, or revolving. And revolving is that credit card stuff, right? So what it means is that, and even if, again, you pay off your bills every month, It's still a revolving account. That credit is still out there. It can help you or hurt you.
Okay.
But it's, again, amounts to about 10% of the score.
Does it help if you pay? I mean, I've heard this, that if, let's say your bill is $3,000 and your minimum payment is $182, if you pay $185, just that extra few dollars over the minimum payment due, does that actually have a good effect on you? Does that make a difference? Because
No.
I've heard that it doesn't.
No, none.
So paying over the minimum really doesn't matter?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good to know.
It comes down to this, that you either pay the bill on time, which is
at least your minimum.
That's just normal, all right? Or you don't.
Right.
If you don't, it hurts you. If you do, it doesn't help you.
Okay, got it.
It kind of drives you crazy, doesn't it?
Yes.
There's another myth out there.
Okay.
And that has to do with not paying it off. In other words, having a credit balance.
Right.
That will help your score. That's also a myth.
Okay.
That's just not true.
No. And scores fluctuate a lot too. How do they fluctuate?
Well, by these factors that we've talked about.
Okay.
But, for example, my score this month is going to be lower. I already know that.
Oh, really?
Well, because I had a wedding that we had to finance, and we saved the money for it. But when we went to San Antonio for the wedding, we put everything on
the credit card. Sure.
So the balance is pretty big right now.
Yeah.
And so, credit score-wise, my score is probably going to drop 7 or 8 points.
Okay.
But I will pay it off at the end of the month, and bingo, it comes right back up.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I also want to go back to something else that you said and revisit the fact that you say that prospective employers actually may check your credit scores, and that could affect your employability.
It's becoming more and more prevalent, Nikki, for an employer. When you apply, they check your credit score, and keep in mind that especially if you're applying for something within a financial sector, if your credit score is bad, it's a red flag to the employer.
Well, does it matter if you've been unemployed? I mean, if somebody's been unemployed for months, or maybe fell behind on their bills in the past few years, or maybe they have foreclosure, or they've had a bankruptcy, I mean, all of these things that have happened in their own personal history, does that all affect it?
Yes, I'm afraid so. Now, keep in mind that you can explain it. I mean, if we're talking one-on-one, you're the employer, I'm the potential hiree, if you will.
Sure.
Yeah, I can explain to you, gee, I had these medical bills and I couldn't pay them.
Okay.
And you can look at it and say, well, all right, you know, that makes sense to me, and you're probably not a bad risk.
Okay. Well, this is such good information, and there's a lot more to be found right at your website. So let's tell everybody you've created a unique personal online program that people can go to and access to even watch some videos that are really going to help them get on track. So let's let everybody know about that.
FocusOnTheFuture.tv. As a matter of fact, under the episodes tab at the top of the page, I believe it's episode 4, you can watch an entire program on credit scores, how they're derived, and how to repair your credit as well.
That's fantastic. Skip, thank you so much for being here as
always. A pleasure, ma'am.
Always very helpful information that I really need to start taking. And now taking us to break is a clip of Identical, which is showing this weekend at the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival, and it's the story of twins that fall in love with the same woman, and it's a dangerous love triangle that's formed. Scandalous.
Imagine.